ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Hare Krishna. Today we will take a shloka from the 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. Am I audible? You're able to hear me clearly? Okay. So this shloka is the 22nd one in the chapter. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुध. So let's recite this shloka a few times. Kartik Iyer.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणाम। ये संसारपर्शाच भोगा दुःख योनय एव ते अद्य अन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः।
Very good. आराधना.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण। ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा
दुःखयोनय एव ते
दुःखयोनय एव ते
आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय
आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय
तेषु रमते बुध.
न तेषु रमते बुध। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
हरे कृष्ण. दिव्य कृष्ण.
Yes, Prabhuji, Tanvat Pranam.
And you can recite.
Yes. ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोन एव ते
आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय
न तेषु रमते बुधः.
Yes, Sri Lakshmi.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, recite.
दंडवत प्रणाम।
धन्यवाद.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः.
Very good. Yes, Chinmayi.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः।
Hasini.
Yes, Prabhu. एहि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः. हरे कृष्ण।
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आदि अन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु।
Mokshasri.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, दंडवत प्रणामम। ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः।
Very good. Tanvit.
ये संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुध। थैंक यू प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्ण।
Vimal Prasad. Yes, recite.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम। ये संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःख एव ते
आद्यन्तवन्तः
कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः।
Thank you.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी।
Vishnupriya.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुध। हरे कृष्ण।
Hasini Mataji. Lajni Gopi.
हरे कृष्ण। Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. This is Shama Gauri. Can I recite the Sloka?
Yes, Shyamagauri, recite.
ये
Yehi
हि संपर्शजा भोगा
दुःखयोनय एव ते
दुःखयोन्य एव ते
आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय
आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय
तेषु रमते बुध.
Na teshu ramate buddhaha.
Rishikesh.
Thank you,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
Prabhuji. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantah kaunteya nate shuramate buddha.
Tirana.
येहि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्त कौन्तेय न ते सुरमते बुधा.
And we'll discuss the meaning of this shloka. So this shloka comes in the 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, and Krishna describes in this shloka how the distracting mind and senses will degrade the soul. They will cause great obstacles in our progress in spiritual life. Let's see the meaning. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga. Samsparsha. Sparsha means touch. Samsparsha means like too much of touch or interaction or contact with sense objects. So bhoga. So with the purpose of enjoyment, if we bring our senses in contact with the sense objects too much, what will happen? That becomes the cause of distress. Dukkhayonaya evate. Okay. Ehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayonaya evate. Means if we bring our senses in contact with sense objects, then definitely there is some pleasure, but that pleasure is temporary and it's not eternal or permanent pleasure. Too much of indulgence in pleasures of the senses will cause a lot of distress. Dukkhayonaya evate. Adyantavantaha kaunteya, and such pleasures also have a beginning and an end. Adi means beginning, anta means end. Kaunteya, O Arjuna. So the pleasures that we derive by bringing our senses in contact with sense objects is very temporary, and it has a beginning and it has an end. Say you are eating something, and definitely you will get some pleasure, but it has a beginning and it has an end. You cannot enjoy eating something forever, right? So sense pleasures have a limit to give us some enjoyment. Nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha means an intelligent person, a wise person, does not take so much of delight in such sense pleasures. Right. So now let us get deeper into the meaning of this shloka. The shloka says, samsparshaja means bringing senses in contact with sense objects. So someone is sitting on a comfortable sofa. So his sense of touch or his skin is getting a lot of pleasure. Okay. He is getting a lot of comfort. Okay. So this is called contacting with sense objects. So eyes may see something very beautiful and enjoy. Tongue may taste something very palatable and the tongue will enjoy. Ears may hear some nice music and the ears will enjoy. Right? The nose may smell some fragrance and the nose will enjoy. So all this enjoyment is an essential play. Our senses are coming in contact with sense objects and experiencing some pleasure, some kind of happiness. But that happiness is not permanent. Okay. So now you see, some sense objects are unattainable. Okay. So you cannot attain them. Somebody may dream for a very nice, expensive car or a very great bungalow to reside. So, but sometimes they are not attainable. Right? And even if you happen to attain them, they are not retainable. Okay. So you may work so hard and get a lot of money, but sometimes that money could be wasted in unnecessary things. Okay, somebody may not be able to protect the money, hard-earned money. So, although some sense objects or sense pleasures are attainable, sometimes they are not retainable. And even if they're attainable or retainable, but after some time they are not palatable. Okay, say you are eating some nice foodstuffs, but how long you can taste them? So you can eat one sweet, and someone gives you second sweet. Okay, you can eat that also. Third sweet also you can eat. But how many times? How many sweets you can eat in one go? So the same sense object that gave you pleasure at one point will not give you pleasure forever, right? After some time, they are not palatable. The tastiest object that you want to enjoy will not remain tasty after some time. You will get. Please mute yourself. So now we have seen that some sense objects are unattainable, and sometimes they are not retainable, and sometimes they are not palatable. So and one more thing is the capacity of enjoying senses is very limited within us. We cannot perpetually enjoy. So you may like pizza, but how many pizzas can you eat? You may like to watch movies. How many movies can you watch? Eyes will become very tired after some time, and the belly will become full, and the tongue becomes bored. So, although you may hold some sense objects as very dear to your heart, still you may not be able to enjoy them perpetually, because the ability of senses to enjoy the sense objects is very limited. You may like some item to eat, but you cannot eat that forever and large quantities. You may like to watch movies, but you cannot see it. After 1 or 2 hours of watching the screen, you will get tired. You may do it whole day, but at the end of the day, you will have to get tired. Okay, so like that, the senses have a limited capacity to enjoy, but still, why do we enjoy with our senses? Sometimes extravagantly, because the mind is hankering for the sense objects. So, although the ability to enjoy is limited, the urge to enjoy remains. So, we need to tolerate that urge. So, sometimes when you are eating something, the body says no, the intelligence says no, but the mind is hankering for it, isn't it? So, you understand with your intelligence it is not good for me, and even your body is also unable to take it, right? You can't take so much enjoyment after some time, but still the mind says take it, take it, take it. Mind keeps pushing us, right? So basically the incompatibility between the soul and the material body is the cause of such dissatisfaction. So how can fleeting material pleasures be fulfilling to spirit soul? The material pleasures are very fleeting and very insubstantial. So the spirit soul cannot become happy. We know this example, popular example. You take a fish out of water and keep it on the shore, and give all facilities to the fish. You may give nice sofa sets. You may put the fish in AC. You may offer pizza, burger, this and that to the fish, but the fish cannot be happy. Only if you take the fish and put it in the water, the fish will become happy. Similarly, the spirit soul is supposed to be enjoying spiritual pleasures in the company of the supremely spiritual Lord, right? So, in the original pure state of the soul enjoys on a spiritual plane by loving Krishna and by serving Krishna. So, if we give that spirit soul some material pleasures, material enjoyment, how can the soul be happy? It's like fish trying to be happy out of water. So, spirit soul cannot enjoy the material plane. So, the spirit soul is caught up in a material body with some material senses, and when the spirit soul comes in contact with material sense objects, that does not satisfy the soul. That's why the soul, the living being, always hankers for enjoyment. But even if the soul gets enjoyment, the soul cannot relish it. The reason is incompatibility. So we are not meant to enjoy on a material way. So just imagine what happens when rivers overflow unpredictably. So we need barriers to be constructed on the banks of the river. Okay. So just imagine in a rice field, not imagine, you can practically see. So in a rice field or any other crops grown by farmers, they raise mud banks. They erect mud banks around the rice fields to keep water inside. So for example, the farmer is supplying water to the rice field, and all the water should go to the rice plants. But if mud banks are not raised on all four sides of the fields, what will happen? All the water will come out. Okay, so the rice plants will not get that nourishment. So similarly, the distracting senses will allow the consciousness to go out. Just like a farmer retains the water within the field, a devotee has to retain one's consciousness within himself, right? By regulating the senses. So we need to regulate the senses. So regulating the senses or sharpening our intelligence is like raising mud banks around. So our consciousness should focus on the Supreme Lord. Our consciousness should be focusing, our mind should be focusing on worshipping the Lord. If you are also, say, working, you have to focus on your work. You are studying, you have to focus on your studies. So we need to focus our consciousness on something beneficial. Okay, for that, we need to keep boundaries around us that restrict our consciousness, our mind, and makes the mind focus on what is beneficial for us, right? So if we allow the senses to get distracted the way they want, then and if you don't have intelligence to regulate the mind and senses, then what will happen? The consciousness will spread everywhere. You're constantly distracted. You're chanting, for example, you're chanting the holy name Sudra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. So while you're chanting, the consciousness is going everywhere. We need to restrict that consciousness, right? Just like the farmer keeps all the water within the field by raising mud banks and nourishing the plants. Similarly, the devotee also should withdraw the consciousness from distracting sense objects and focus on the spiritual activities, right? So this is how one has to control the mind, restrict the consciousness. Fine. So otherwise, too much of indulgence in sense objects is not very favorable for us. Right. One thing is we don't have the capacity to enjoy unrestrictedly. Our senses have a limited capacity to enjoy sense objects. So although senses have a limited capacity to enjoy sense objects, the mind has unlimited hankering to enjoy sense objects. Okay. So as I said some time back, your eyes are saying that I'm tired of watching these movies. I'm tired of seeing this screen for a long time. But the mind says, no, this is good. This movie is good. This video is good. Watch. This animation is good. This cartoon is good. Right? So mind keeps instigating. All the body says no. Intelligence also says no. So tomorrow I have exam. I need to study for the exam. If I just focus on this, watching this video, I will fail in the exam. Intelligence keeps reminding us, no, don't do that. And the eyes are saying, I'm tired. Okay, I'm sleepy now. But the mind says, no. There's a lot of enjoyment. Please go ahead. So you're eating something. The tongue says, no, I cannot take it anymore. It's too sweet. I cannot relish it anymore. The body says that I have indigestion. I cannot take it anymore. And intelligence also says that it's not good for your health. Don't take this food so much. But the mind says, no. It's very nice. Please take it. So the distracted mind, our poor consciousness, will constantly instigate us to enjoy sense objects. Okay. So we need to regulate the senses and we need to also sharpen our intelligence. So just like mudbanks keep the water within the field, similarly, the natural barrier for our consciousness is our intelligence, common sense, discrimination. We need to develop good Shastric intelligence and common sense and discrimination to keep the consciousness or mind focused on what is beneficial for us, not what is unfavorable for our spiritual progress. Rupa Goswami gives this shloka. Vacho vegam manasah krodha vegam jihva vegam udaropastha vegam etan vegan yo vishaheta dhirah sarvam apimam prithivim chasishyat. So vacho vegam, the urge to speak. Manasah krodha vegam, the urges of the mind, the urges of anger. Jihva vegam, the urges of the tongue to eat, or the urges of tongue to speak. So all these urges that we have, we need to control them. Animals, they have a lot of urges, but they don't control those urges. But human beings are supposed to regulate those urges. They need to restrict those urges, knowing that they are not good for them. So unnecessarily we speak, unnecessarily we eat, unnecessarily we become angry. So by sharpening our intelligence, we need to control ourselves from indulging in unnecessary things. That's why the shloka says, Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkhayonaya evati. If you indulge too much in sense enjoyment, that is dukkha yoni, that causes great distress. If you speak too much unnecessarily, people will get bored. People will get bored is one thing. People will develop certain impression on us that, oh, he unnecessarily speaks, they may try to distance away. Okay, or if we speak some prajalpa, unnecessary criticism of other devotees, people may not like to associate with us. So by unnecessarily using our urge to speak in negative ways, we basically spoil our relationships also. Right? So like that, some things are not favorable, we should not indulge. Yehi samsparshaja bhoga dukkha yonaya evati. So dukkha, it causes great distress to us if we overindulge in our sensual functions beyond certain restriction. Yes, definitely our senses need some enjoyment. We need some good food. We need to listen something good. We need to see something nice. So to that degree, engaging senses in sense objects is beneficial. It is reasonable. But if we indulge in unreasonable sense pleasures, then that causes dukkha. Fine. But adyantavantaha kaunteya, knowing that these pleasures have beginning and end, a intelligent person does not indulge in them so much. And nateshu ramate buddha. Buddha is an intelligent person, a wise person. He does not engage in unrestricted sense enjoyment. So how do we become Buddha? By swadhyaya, by sadhu sangha, and by seva. So swadhyaya means studying the scriptures. Sadhu sangha means associating with devotees. Seva means rendering service to the Lord and his devotees. So by swadhyaya, sadhu sangha, and seva, we become Buddha. So when we become Buddha, then we don't take too much pleasure in unnecessary sense enjoyment, but we will be able to regulate our senses from unrestricted sense objects. Fine. So we need to try to become Buddha. And when you become Buddha, sense control and mind control becomes a byproduct. Wise person does not indulge in things which are not favorable to him. Only a foolish person indulges. Okay. So we need to control the mind from both sides. First, sharpen our intelligence with Shastra. Second, regulate the senses. Okay. So you need to use the eyes and ears and hands and belly only to some degree, not unrestrictedly. Just because we have mouth, we cannot eat so many things. Just because we have belly, we cannot fill the belly with hundreds of food items, junk food. So that is not good for us. So we need to sharpen our intelligence, and we should also regulate our senses. Then the mind will come under control. Right? So one more thing is the cause for this unrestricted indulgence in sense enjoyment is our misidentification with matter. If we identify ourselves as bodies and not as souls, that will certainly that wrong identification will certainly make us involved in unnecessary pleasures. So selfish sense enjoyment cannot give satisfaction. On a sensual plane, if we want to enjoy it, that will not satisfy us eventually. But engaging the same senses in selfless service of the Lord can completely satisfy the self. Okay. So we want to see something. If we see some unnecessary visuals, then that's not good for us. But if you see the beautiful form of the Lord, that's amazing. You want to eat something, better eat prasad of the Lord. Okay. You want to speak something, better glorify Krishna's pastimes. So then we are responding to the urges of senses, and we are utilizing the senses in certain activities, but they are beneficial for us, the beneficial for the soul. Okay, we are connecting to Krishna by engaging the senses. But if we engage the same senses in a wrong manner, we will go away from the Lord, and we will just be put in a repeated cycle of birth and death. So we need to have that discrimination ready. So there is an end to sense pleasure. But there is no end to hankering for sense pleasure. Means senses have a limited capacity to enjoy senses, but mind has unlimited hankering for the pleasures. Okay. So we need to consciously regulate the senses to reduce the constant hankering for sense pleasure. Mind may be hankering for more. Mind says, give me that, give me that, give me that. Mind says, look there, see there, see there. Or mind says, eat that, eat that. Mind says, touch it, touch it, touch it. Okay. But we need to regulate the senses. No, don't do that. Mind may say that, but we should not do that. Okay. So what will stop our senses? The intelligence. Okay. So like this, if we sharpen the intelligence and regulate senses, mind will eventually come down from the hankering. But if we give in to the urges of mind, then intelligence becomes a servant of the mind. So the mind's hankering prompts us to indulge in sense pleasures, even when the senses say, enough, I can't take it anymore. And the intelligence says, no, don't do this. Still, the mind hankers for it. But if we don't restrict the senses and control the mind with intelligence, what happens is mind becomes stronger and stronger. The more we respond to the desires of the mind, unnecessary desires of the mind, the more mind becomes stronger. Intelligence becomes weaker. Senses become weaker. Right? So we should not make the mind stronger in a negative way. We should make the mind stronger by chanting the holy names of the Lord. We should make the mind stronger by meditating on Krishna's pastimes. So we need to make the mind strong and not weak. So the more we allow the mind to meditate on sense objects, the more the mind becomes weak. Okay. So mind hankers for the fulfillment of desires, but intelligence discriminates those desires and first segregates what desires are to be fulfilled and what desires are not supposed to be fulfilled. So we need to follow the intelligence. So temptations are always there, but we need to tolerate the temptations. But if we give in to temptations, there are a lot of tribulations. So now the Sloka of Bhagavad-gita teaches us to tolerate our temptations, to terminate our tribulations. If we give in to sense enjoyment, and if we give in to all the temptations of the mind and senses, the temptations will lead to tribulations. So we are supposed to tolerate the temptations and not give in to temptations. If we can tolerate the temptations, then we can terminate all tribulations. Because unnecessary response given by the person to the mind's temptations will lead the person to so many tribulations. Right? So this is what this Shloka teaches us. And the Shloka teaches us even more. So why eager for meager material pleasures? There is unlimited spiritual pleasure there. So why we want to indulge in some sparsha, bhoga? Some sparsha means why you want to bring the senses in contact with sense objects for bhoga, for sense enjoyment, okay, for material pleasures. We can bring our senses in contact with spiritual sense objects. Right, in the morning program, what do we do? In a temple, we smell the fragrance offered to the Lord. We smell the flowers offered to the Lord. We smell tulasi offered to the Lord. Okay, we see the beautiful form of the deity, right, in the temple. So like that, all our senses have positive and spiritual engagement. But if we neglect that and we indulge in negative sense engagement, then that will lead to tribulations. So we have so many examples like Pururava, who is overly attached to Urvasi. We have the example of Yayati, who was overly attached to Devayani. So those people who overly utilized their senses for material pleasures had a very bad experience. So all their realizations are stored in Bhagavatam. So we need to learn those lessons. So we don't have to go through the similar experiences, but we can learn what to do and what not to do from the examples of these great souls whose stories are mentioned in Bhagavatam, and we can conduct our lives accordingly, according to the teachings of Bhagavatam. Fine. So in ignorance, we ignore what is beneficial for us and we embrace what is harmful to us. But in knowledge, we don't ignore what is beneficial to us. We discriminate what is good and what is bad, and we eliminate the bad and accept the good. So let us not be ignorant, let us be knowledgeable. Right? And the knowledge comes from Shastras. So these are a few thoughts on this beautiful shloka. I'll conclude here. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad-gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada.